Amazon Stage.
Hi everyone, my name is Maciek and I'd like to welcome you to a very special episode of Amazon Stage. We are today in Vercelli in Italy, in Amazon Operations Innovation Lab, and we are being hosted by Stefano La Rovera. Hello Stefano.
Welcome.
Very nice to meet you. Thanks for hosting us. Stefano is a Director of Global Robotics, Mechatronics and Sustainable Packaging at Amazon. And we arrived here to give you a little tour of the Innovation Lab and also have a nice conversation with Stefano.
Nice to meet you and great to host you today.
Thank you so much. So Stefano, we're very excited to talk about all the innovations, which you showed me already, some of them. But first question, it's the traditional question we have in this podcast. It's like, what is your typical breakfast of choice?
Right, so since I'm traveling a lot, I don't really have a traditional breakfast. I just eat whatever I find, except for when I travel to Italy. And here there are very strict rules on the breakfast you can have, which is a cappuccino with the pastry.
Okay, perfect. So before we go into technology, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you, right? So how did the whole thing start for you? Did you dream to be, constructing robots when you were a kid? Like, that's how it started, or was there a more complicated story to where you are today?
No, I think probably I had quite clear idea since I was a kid. I wanted to be an inventor in the future. Huh? I don't know which kind of job is it, but that was my dream job. And probably today in Amazon, that's what I'm doing. And so I studied engineering, master's in robotics and automation. Then I worked in a fast-moving consumer good industry across engineering, supply chain, startup construction. And then 8.5 years ago, Amazon came and asked me, do you want to build what used to be called an advanced technology roadmap for Europe? Mm-hmm. And I asked, what does that mean? The answer was, I don't know. You come and you tell us and you figure out. And that's pretty much what I've been doing, rolling up sleeves and starting to build the organization and the technical roadmap for Europe and now for the entire globe.
Right. That's quite interesting how these journeys typically start with a very ambiguous space at the very beginning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. So you've been in multiple different places. Do you think there's anything peculiar about, how Amazon approaches technology and building technology teams?
I would say there is a very special, peculiar complexity for automation in Amazon. In the traditional industry, like in the automotive or in, again, fast-moving consumer, the production line and automation normally produces a standard product, the same ASIN, the same product over and over again for a batch of millions of products. Then you do a changeover of an entire production line, and then you start producing again millions or thousands of the same product again. The problem or the complexity or the challenge in Amazon is that the batch size for us is one. Every product is different from the next one. We receive a phone, then we receive a teddy bear, then we receive a chair. Yeah. And so the complexity with the automation is how to automate something that you don't even know how it looks like until it just pops up in front of you.
Right. So how do you do that?
That's a good question. So there is, of course, a lot of learning. There is a lot of testing and training and development. And we use a development process, which we go in stages to really try to figure out the best, most creative, yet simple way to handle such complexity.
So before we go to details, if you could tell us, like the reason for being here, kind of like what are you doing? What is your team doing, and what are you trying to achieve now after these 8 years that you've been here?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the story itself of this lab is a good representation of the Amazon leadership principles of invent and simplify, of frugality, and think big. We started 8 years ago with a very simple idea, which was, let's start to test and to pilot new ideas. We took literally a small corner in the building next door just to start to test new things. Over time, those ideas started to make sense, and so we started to expanding and to enlarge, and that small place has now become an entire building where we are today, specifically designed and built for our innovation. And so the message is, start small, start frugal. You don't need a lot of people or a lot of resources, but then think big. And what we do here is to develop next generation technologies across robotics, mechatronics, pack automation, and packaging. And this is actually the first robotic lab for Amazon outside of the United States. The other two are in Seattle and Boston. But these three labs really work together as an ecosystem of creativity and invention where researchers and engineers and scientists from around the world share ideas and competencies to develop new ideas that scale globally with the three main objectives behind innovation. The first one, safety and ergonomics for our associates. Second is improve the promise for our consumers by providing faster delivery. And last but not least, support us in our sustainability journey.
Got it. And so when you say these three different sites are working in collaboration, what does that actually mean? Is there some split, or because here it's a lab for testing and also showcasing the technology, right? Are other sites also having a showcasing place and testing lab? How can you share us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, let's say that the goal for the three labs is to provide similar capabilities. Mm-hmm. Not all the labs are at the same level yet, right, but that's why we share lessons learned and ideas to reapply them globally. And you also mentioned an important point, which is this lab is not just to develop technology. We host here a training and learning center. So we can host operators and maintenance teams from our sites before the technology even shows up on site. So they learn how to operate, maintain, troubleshoot, and clean the technology. They come here to learn and acquire new skills. Right. And last year, we also opened the doors of the lab to the public so that researchers, universities, companies, or even just curious people can come to see what we do behind the scene of innovation. And the goal is really, we believe that sharing knowledge is the best way we have as a society to continue improving and generating new ideas and new innovation. Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who would say, well, by sharing, you're also kind of sharing a little bit of your secret sauce, right? Aren't you concerned about that?
Of course, but again, we really want to drive innovation from all over the place. We don't want to be internally focused to only look at our camp. We know that there are great companies, great startups, great ideas there, and we actually want to even foster and invest in them. Mm-hmm. There is, for example, a program called Amazon Industrial Innovation Fund, which is a $2 billion investment fund for startups or companies who have new ideas. Mm-hmm. And literally a few weeks ago, we hosted here in the lab the first European Industrial Innovation Fund event, where we invited 6 startups to come and share their products and figure out ways to collaborate together and help them to grow their business.
Right. So you talked a little bit about it already, right? So this site is a training space. It's a testing lab. I guess it's a development lab as well, right? And also like an incubation space, right? Is there anything else that I miss?
I think that's a good summary of all the capabilities.
And we are close also to an actual fulfillment center here as well, right? So
exactly. Literally next door, there is a fulfillment center. So it's a great opportunity, again, of sharing ideas, innovation, and bring real feedback from our internal customers in operations and maintenance into our technologies early enough into the development cycle.
Got it. That happened also with a site in Poland, I've heard, right? Like with Wrocław?
Exactly. So in Row 5, which is our first inbound cross-dock in Poland, is where we tested for the first time in Europe a technology called ATR. We like a lot of acronyms in Amazon. ATR stands for Automated Tote Retrieval. As the name itself says, this technology automatically retrieves totes full of products and replenishes them with empty totes. Well, Row 5 in Poland is the first site globally where we ever tested this new technology in the field to get feedback to design, to make sure it is easy to operate. And from there, now all the sites in Europe are equipped with this technology.
Got it. Can you give us a little bit of a sense of timing here, right? Because I can imagine like coming from this idea, right? So you mentioned to me before how you're always trying to design a technology with a very specific goal to accomplish, and then you want to obviously to propagate for that technology to adopt, right, in our fulfillment centers. Like, what's the timing here? Like, is that, 2 months, a year? How long does it typically take?
Yeah, good question. Of course, it depends a lot on the complexity of the technology. It depends also on what's available technology over there in the market. Because honestly, we don't have the time to reinvent the wheel. Right. If there is already an existing technology, why not taking it and implementing it? And so it can go from few months to a couple of years or 2-3 years for the most complex technologies, especially when they touch a lot of processes in our fulfillment center. And we want to make sure they are fully integrated. Because when we develop technology, we don't develop what we call islands of automation. We don't just develop or deploy a standalone unit. We deploy fully integrated systems where technology end-to-end integrates with upstream and downstream processes, where technology and operators really work hand in hand together.
Right. So that's the interesting piece we have been discussing off the camera here as well, right? Like, I find in general that developing a certain, piece of technology, right, is one thing, but then integrating that piece of technology into the entire system, right, that is another thing, and that requires much more complication and work, right?
Exactly, and that's why our development process follows 5 key steps, which actually is more than steps, is really a rotating wheel which keeps on spinning. The first step, we call it explore. Explore means that we receive a problem statement from our customers or from our consumers. Mm-hmm. And we start to brainstorm how we can solve this problem. If we have an idea which makes sense, we transform this idea into an actual prototype, which is a real physical device. It can be something very simple, just to confirm that the physics behind the idea actually work. Yeah. If the prototype works, then we scale into a full machine, but not yet in operation. Most likely alpha machine, that's how we call them, are normally hosted here in the lab. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we first of all want to make sure that they are safe, that they are easy to operate, easy to maintain, easy to lubricate. We invite our operations and maintenance team to give us feedback to design for operability and maintainability. If this alpha unit is also successful, then we move it to the field in what we call beta. Here we will start to test the technology with the real mix of products that we need to handle every day. And even when the technology is in the field, our work doesn't stop there, because guess what? Amazon packaging keeps on changing. Amazon processes keep on changing. Amazon world keeps on changing very fast. Yeah. So we need to always keep the technology up to speed with the constant changing variety of our landscape. Yeah. And that's why the last phase is called continuous improvement, which means that we keep on receiving feedback from our customers, and we restart again this innovation wheel to make sure we keep on delivering new innovation. So,
Stefano, you mentioned that 5-step process you have for innovation, right? And the last one, I think, is called continuous improvement, right? And so I wonder whether you have an example of continuous improvement actually being fed with some customer feedback and you changing something because of that feedback.
Yeah, I actually have an example that explains both this point and also the point about robotics helping to upskill our associate. Mm-hmm. I always go back to my mind to the very first technology that we developed and deployed in Europe for Amazon, which is a robotic tote palletizer. So it's a robot which is taking totes, which are nothing else but plastic containers, and needs to stack one after the other, one on top of each other. This, of course, can be quite a heavy, tiring transformation. So instead of having operators doing this, we now have a robot doing this transformation, and the operator becomes a robotic operator. Right. And so remember when we were installing the very first robotic cell in Germany, that was in Dortmund 7 years ago or more, one of the operators who was there came to us and asked, hey, can you actually teach us how to use this robot? Right. And can I become a robotic operator? Wow. And so we basically did so, actually. And so that operator became a robotic operator. And a few months later, we came back to see how the cell was coming. Oh. And the operator came to us with several pages on all the improvements he wanted us to make on the robotic cell. Oh. And it was, hey, this screen is not too visible here. This opening doesn't allow me to reach there, and this door is not too big. So it's great to see really how every person can really feed improvements, ideas, and really help us to make technology more and more fit around the human.
Yeah. It's a very nice story because it shows like how you can become this expert, right? And then feed the innovation back effectively.
Exactly. And you don't really need to have a lot of background knowledge, or you don't need to be an engineer to do so. When we develop and deploy technology, we don't just deliver a machine. We deliver a machine and the full set of training, learning classes, training material to teach the people to operate, maintain, troubleshoot, innovate.
Got it. And that, you mentioned how technology creates effectively more jobs. That's that, right? Because you need to have these education specialists, right? I assume you need to have, the experience to look at a specific process and, outline another process to teach that process to humans, right?
Exactly. And so that's why we invest a lot in innovation, but in training, in upskilling, in developing and generating and acquiring new competencies for all our operators and also for our engineers who keep on learning new tools and new systems.
Got it. A fun question here. So I've heard that you can now buy a car in US from Amazon, right? Is that the ultimate challenge your team has for fulfillment?
I think it's a good idea. I'm not sure if that was more of a marketing thing, but probably that's a bit of an extreme scenario. In general, the goal is to increase the selection for our customers and improve delivery speed. So we are, for example, investing a lot in creating new micro hubs where we can deliver not just next day, but even same day delivery. Yeah. And of course, we're also investing a lot in sustainability, which is another big challenge and opportunity that automation opens up by reducing waste, reducing material, reducing packaging, reducing CO2, and helping us in our sustainability journey.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. What you're always saying is the first goal is safety, right? And when you start a prototype, you said you first want to make sure that it's safe for operators to be, in close vicinity of these, machines. A lot, I guess, maybe our viewers have this idea that maybe robotics at Amazon means that you have a humanoid robot, right? Can you share a little bit more about what it actually is? And of course, we will show our viewers, pictures and videos of that. But would love to hear your opinion about that.
Yeah, I will start from the motto behind innovation in our robotics department. Our motto is complex is easy, simple is hard. Which means that developing the most technologically complex machine is relatively easy. Right. But making it easy to operate, easy to maintain, easy to lubricate, making it really human-centered, that's the most complex part. And this means that for most of the activities that happen in a fulfillment center, you don't need the big complexity of a humanoid robots with legs, arms, with problems of balance to do that operation. Right. Sometimes you need a simple robot with maybe even 2 axes of movement, or maybe even a simple gantry with even 1 axis to execute repetitive motion, letting the robots do what they are good at doing, which are the repetitive, tiring activities, and letting our operators instead reallocate their capabilities into more sophisticated tasks that only robots, that only humans can do. And that's why it's really an ecosystem of collaborative autonomy where robots and machines become a tool for our operators.
Got it. So you mentioned that term human-centered, design and human-centered robotics. Can you tell us a little bit, what does that mean for you, like a director of Amazon Robotics, like on a daily level? Like, what does it actually mean? Do you review policies or, maybe innovation plans, which are, centered around that principle?
Yeah, so there is, of course, a lot going behind, because we want to make sure that the technology is designed around the human. So, for example, ergonomic plays a big role. Right. If you see some of our pick station or pack station, they are designed with ergonomics in mind, so that every person, regardless of age or height or reach can ergonomically reach every position. So there are a lot of strict rules and policies, for example, when it comes to ergonomics.
Right.
The same applies to safety. And actually, when it comes to safety, we don't want to take any risk. And that's why we have in-house a lot of safety experts and safety engineers, but we want to go even beyond. We also rely on third-party notified body to audit our own machines and give us a totally independent assessment of the safety level of our technology, so we don't take any risk.
Got it. So what does success mean for your team?
When I explain the cycle of innovation, I explain that we start working backward from the customers. So we start from a problem. We don't develop innovation for the sake of developing innovation. We develop technology to solve a problem for our internal customers in Amazon or for our final consumers. And so we start from the customers and we finish with the customers. So success for us is happy customer. Right. It means that our operations team or our maintenance team find the technology helping in their day-to-day operations in creating a safer, more ergonomic workplace. It means that our consumers can receive products faster or with increased selection. It means that our planet also gets a benefit from a sustainability point of view through less waste and less material.
Yeah. Can you share one example which you particularly like on that successful thing which helped the internal customer, as you said, operators or maintenance specialists, and the end customer?
Yeah, so I would probably refer to one of our latest technologies that we recently announced. We call it Universal Robotic Labeler. As the name itself says, is a robotic cell that automatically places labels on the products. First of all, applying labels is quite of a repetitive transformation, so a robot can easily do it. Second point, the traditional Amazon package used to be a box.
Right.
A box is a nice,
rectangular shape,
squarish area, so it's very easy to apply a label on it. Yeah. Nowadays, only less than half of our shipments in Europe takes place in boxes. We now have paper bags, flat envelopes, or sometimes we even ship products without any additional packaging, what we call ships in product packaging. Yeah. And so this means that traditional ways of applying labels are no longer effective, and we need a robotic system who can smartly identify where to apply a label, but can also allow to apply different types and different dimensions of labels, including smaller labels. By applying smaller labels, we can now reduce, of course, material consumption, but we can also allow, for example, to ship small products that in the past we had to put inside bigger boxes just because of the size of the label. Yeah. Now we can ship small packages without any additional packaging at all by applying a smaller label on top of them.
Got it. So this helps the internal customer, right? Because it's much easier to apply those labels on packaging, and the actual customer receiving the package who doesn't need to deal with this huge packaging and big label stick on it, and then you have like very small product inside, right?
Exactly. It also helps to improve quality because this robotic cell, for example, use special vision systems based on machine learning, which tell them what's the best area, like the flattest area of the package, where to apply a label. So we avoid wrinkles, we avoid that package stick out, and so we also improve the quality for our internal operations and for the final consumer.
I assume also there's you're reducing shipment errors, right? Because if the label would be somehow wrinkled, like it might be not get to the actual customer, right?
Exactly. Or imagine that if a label is peeled off, two packages may even stick to each other. And so now we avoid this type of defects.
So yeah, as you said, artificial intelligence is, everybody's talking about it right now, right? But as you mentioned, Amazon as a company has been deploying artificial intelligence, machine learning for over 25 years, right? Like, do you remember, what does that actually mean 10 years ago, for example, when many people didn't even hear about artificial intelligence?
Yeah, absolutely. We really use artificial intelligence everywhere in our fulfillment network. For example, when we want to forecast demand, we have artificial intelligence tools which help us to predict 3 months before an order is placed, what, where, and when will be placed. And this allows us to smartly move inventory close to the customer early enough, which means that we can then deliver in very fast timing, and also help us to reduce transportation. Because when the customer orders a product, if a customer here in Italy orders a product, we make sure that there is a fulfillment center in Italy who already has that product, instead of having to ship it in Germany. That's one example. Another example is for route planning. When our transportation trucks or delivery drivers need to bring packages around, we use AI tools to help them predict potential adverse weather conditions. And so, for example, recommend an alternative routing, or help them to first ship products in the same region or area before moving to the next, so they don't need to waste time going back and forth. Up to the other applications of AI in all our technologies, each of them connected to our cloud, to our Amazon Web Services, with artificial intelligence tools that help us to identify packages, to understand their shape, to understand their 3D dimensions. For example, there is a special tool called Packaging Decision Engine, which is an AI-based model which identifies the product, analyzes the characteristics, the shapes, the volume, and tell us what's the best packaging to use for that product. If the product is fragile, the system will likely recommend to use a strong box. If the product is strong enough, maybe a paper bag is sufficient. Sometimes the tool will tell us, you know what, the packaging of the product is already e-commerce ready. So don't add any further packaging, just ship it as it is.
These are great stories, right? Because when you think about technology, I think it's very important in what factor you optimize for, right? Like, and in those stories, it's very clear what is the optimization factor, right? It's typically to get the product faster to the customer, or to be safer at the floor, right? So that's great. One follow-up question on this one, right? Like, how do you predict what somebody will order 3 months in advance? Is it just like based on holiday season, or is it more to it?
Yeah, of course, there is a lot of complexity behind. There are some holiday patterns where, for example, in Italy, probably around Christmas, many people will order a torrone or a panettone, which are typical Christmas types of cakes. But there are also trends where, for example, if we learn that whoever has been buying coffee cups also order chewing gum so that they can clean up their smell, then we try to already put both products in the same location. So there is a lot of learning of patterns and working with a lot of data.
Got it. So there's inference of, this, you could say, that when you buy a certain product, it's very likely that you'll buy another product. So, okay, very cool. So, Stefano, in this season of Amazon Stage, we are talking to experts, right, who are working on applying AI in practice, right? And so you're the perfect example of that. I wonder, how do you approach that trust topic of using AI in the workplace, right? Many people don't trust AI in general. How do you see, the general topic about artificial intelligence, especially, applied in practice in the workplace?
First of all, I would like to start by saying that AI today is a very mediatic topic, but let's not forget that Amazon has been working on AI for the last 20 to 25 years. So it's not that new to Amazon. And we actually already use it in all our processes, from inventory planning, forecasting, route planning, to all our technologies in the field. And I think that one of the base principles behind AI is we really focus on a ethic development of AI, where we share data and information with teams across all over the world, so we can self-audit ourselves the way we develop and which data go into AI. But on top of that, I think the important piece to remember is AI and technology in general needs also education. And that's why, for example, Amazon is implementing scholarships for everybody who wants to learn about AI. Even internally in Amazon, there are many trainings and learning courses available to learn AI. And we really want to teach AI not just in Amazon, but even starting from the schools with whom we are having partnership, because we believe that education and understanding something is the best way to handle it rather than being afraid of it.
Got it. So effectively, I guess what you're saying is that one centerpiece of applying AI in the world and in jobs effectively is education, right? And so in other words, better understanding what, how it is built, I assume, right? Like, why did we build it, right? And what are the kind of principles applying for that development? Right?
Exactly.
Okay. So what would you still say to the skeptic who is like, well, yeah, but a human still can do the job much better?
Yeah, I think that we always need to remember that we shouldn't talk about the typical stereotype behind innovation or technology, robotic AI is technology cutting jobs.
Right.
I think we should really talk more precisely about technology and AI transforming jobs. And there are new types of jobs which are coming to life thanks to technology that before didn't exist. To give you some numbers, just in Europe, over 50,000 jobs have been enhanced and have improved thanks to technology. We have created globally over 700 new types of jobs that before didn't exist before thanks to technology and to AI. For example, today, for maintaining a robotic cell, you need people who are certified and trained as robotic technicians. And even in the field of AI, now there are new jobs like the prompt engineer, which didn't exist before, and now there are new jobs which come to life to feed this new technology.
Yeah. Maybe we can explain for our viewers and listeners robotic cell.
So a robotic cell is a system composed of a robot unit and conveyors or fences around, so a multitude of mechatronics devices which execute a certain transformation, which can be a simple pick and place, which can be stacking, which can be palletizing, which can be a lot of different repetitive motion.
Got it. And so are you, like you and your team, also using, the recent developments of AI, like large language models or multimodal models, and how, if so?
Yeah, so we actually constantly use our AI models, which are available through AWS, the Amazon Web Services. All our technologies are actually virtually connected to our cloud of AWS model. And so we constantly feed information to the cloud where artificial intelligence model help us to elaborate information and help us to execute a certain transformation. For example, if you look at, again, the Universal Robotic Labeler that we discussed before, there is a module at the infeed of the cell which uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to 3D scan the product and figure out what's the best place to apply a label. And so we use artificial intelligence, machine learning, also in the cloud to help us direct the robot to the right placing position.
Got it. So the team is using, multiple models, I guess, assuming which is required for the job, for the task.
Exactly.
Bedrock and stuff. Correct. Okay. Here's a couple of lightning questions for you, which I'm very curious. What is your favorite robot cell in the lab?
So the favorite one is, again, another acronym called FSRI, which stands for Flat Sorter Robotic Index. This cell is basically picking packages from bulk random order and placing them one at a time on an outfit conveyor. The reason why I like it is that it is really the best expression of our innovation cycle, where we started with an idea, we transform into a technology in the field, but then the landscape in the field kept on changing. We no longer shipped normal, simple boxes. We started shipping packages, paper bags, and envelopes, or no packaging added at all. And so we had to continuously iterate and innovate and improve this robotic cell to make it still usable and functionable for Amazon. And that's why it's also exposed as an example and demonstration of this innovation cycle.
Right. I mean, you must be a true innovator, because whenever requirements change, typically people are very frustrated, but you're excited about it, right?
That's correct. As I said, we always work backward from the customer, and we need technology which is useful. If the technology doesn't have a purpose, there is no point of even implementing that. Technology needs to solve a problem, It needs to be an instrument, a tool for our humans and our operators in the field.
Got it. So we touched a little bit about that, but what do you think is the biggest misconception about automation in general?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is what I was alluding before about automation cutting jobs. And that's where I explain is really about automation transforming jobs. It's about providing new opportunities. It's creating new roles. And that's why education, that's why formation is so important from the schools to here with the training and learning center we host so that operators or maintenance team can come to learn and acquire new skills and new competencies that can also help them to progress with their career objectives.
What's the one thing people should understand about tech in general in Amazon?
I think the big one is referring again to our leadership principle is invent and simplify, which is again, technology needs to serve a purpose and technology needs to be simple. Technology needs to be useful. So again, don't innovate for the sake of innovating, but really develop to solve a real problem.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds like a big challenge, right? When you have like I guess a big team of inventors, they typically just want to move on, move and keep working on whatever they are interested in, right? And I guess you and your team need to focus really laser sharp on a very specific problem, right? Which needs to be solved, for our fulfillment needs in general, right?
Exactly, and that's where our customer feedback are so important, because we can also come with new ideas, but do we even need them? The main question is, what do our customer need? And that is really the principle inspiring and guiding us in channeling and focusing our energies and our work to really solve the right problem.
How does that work? Do you actually have some research team who are reaching out to operators and they're having conversations with them about what can be improved? How does that cycle work?
It's actually an interesting two-way flow of information. We continuously scout to search and look for what are your problems, what are your needs, but very often actually our customers come to us asking like, hey, we have a problem, or hey, we have an idea to improve a process. So we constantly look for ways to improve our processes, to improve our fulfillment centers. And the key is really maintaining a strong collaboration, a strong communication with all the local site and the local operating teams who are the ones who are going to use that operation day and night.
Right. Do you remember an example where you actually set out to achieve a certain goal and you actually failed?
So for example, there was once a moment where we were developing an autonomous vehicle to bring certain products from one point to another point. Again, these vehicles need to be, first of all, safe.
Yes.
In order to be safe, we had to equip them with a bunch of sensors and safety scanners all around.
Yes.
Guess what? When this vehicle is moving through a big crowd of people, that vehicle always remains stuck over there because there are just too many people around. Yes. And so that's an example where we stopped that kind of development and we moved into new generation of autonomous vehicles that we also, for example, recently announced. One is called Proteus, which not only have safety scanners around to detect obstacles or people, but they also have a smart algorithm to really go around those obstacles so that you don't get stuck anymore when you see an obstacle, but you try to identify a new route to go around and reach the final destination.
That's also kind of similar to that self-healing concept which you showed me on the floor, right? Like the machines having the ability to understand the world a little bit better than just like there's a label or no, right?
Exactly. The FSRI cell, that robotic manipulator, sometimes can make an error and can pick, for example, 2 packages instead of 1. If that happens, some cameras at the outfit will detect that there are more than 1 package and will tell the robot, go and clean it up. And so the robot will bring the packages back and restart the singulation process again.
Got it. What are you excited about that you're currently working on and you cannot share yet?
I will say the one I'm excited and something I can half share is about all our new investments in pack automation technologies. We showed before one machine which is producing paper bags We also have other machines who can produce custom-made, right-size boxes. Yeah. And we are starting this year a big deployment across Europe of these new pack automation machines. Just this year, we are going to implement over 70 of those across Poland, Germany, France, UK, Italy, Spain. Right. And we have a pipeline of hundreds of these machines to be deployed in Europe across the next 3 to 5 years.
Wow, that's very impressive. It's so cool that all these innovations are actually being deployed at scale, right? That must be a pretty special feeling for you, right?
Yeah, especially when you deploy them globally. And this means that when you develop a technology, going back to the point of safety, you can't design it just to work in Italy, where we are today. Yeah. It needs to work in Italy, in Spain, in North America, in Canada. And that's why when it comes again to safety, we always look at the strictest type of regulations to make sure that the technology can really scale globally.
Got it. Thank you, Stefano. It was so awesome to be here. Thank you very much for all your stories and the whole conversation. That was very informative for me and I think for our viewers as well. So today we had a chance to be in Amazon Operations Innovation Lab in Vercelli in Italy. It was a very special episode for us. The first time we did record outside of our Gdańsk Amazon Development Center Poland office, and we hope to give you more of these episodes in the future. You can watch the full episode on YouTube and Spotify, and please join us for many more episodes of Amazon Stage. Thank you.
Amazon Stage.